I develop and demonstrate a lot of rule-based strategies or algorithms here on my channel. As some of you have been asking, in this video I'm going to show you an algorithm or trading strategy which I haven't published before, but one that I live trade myself. I've chosen this strategy especially to look at because it's one of the first algorithms I ever developed myself when I was beginning to learn how to develop and create strategies using multicharts way back in 2016. During the time that I started trading it, it made some good profits, but then it started to underperform and I actually switched off and stopped trading it. However, then it actually started to perform again, make money again, so then I've switched it back on, which is quite rare, and another reason why I want to show you this one in particular. We'll have a look at the strategy on the computer using data that I had right up until that point, which was from January 2008 through to June 2016, and then we'll look at the performance report. Then we'll look even further and I'll show you the period where it started to underperform and when I turned the strategy off, and I'll talk about how I was actually late to turn that strategy off too, so I made a slight mistake there which did cost me a little bit of money. We'll then look at on the chart, on the performance report, when it started making money again, and I'll show you when I started trading it again. And then finally we'll look and see how the performance from the day that I developed it right through to the present day, which is in May 2021, and we'll see how it performed all those years. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the rules of the actual strategy. This video is more about showing the performance of an actual live strategy that I'm trading. However, it's an intraday breakout strategy that works off dollar-yen. It buys breakouts of the daily high and sells breakouts of the daily lows. And I only trade in a particular time window throughout the day. And it also looks at the previous day's behaviour to see whether or not to take the trades. I use just a fixed pip stop loss. It has a 105 pip stop loss and there is no profit target. So it's a stop and reverse type strategy, meaning if we're long, then the only exit from that long trade is either we're going to be stopped out at a loss or we're going to get an exit in the opposite direction to go short. So for the vast majority of the time, it is in the market one way or another, unless we've been stopped out and there's a small flat period between being stopped out and the next trade signal. So let's go over to the computer, have a look at the charts and look at the performance report throughout the years. As usual, I'm going to use Oanda's data to show you the results of this report, and it's the same data that I used to develop the strategy back in 2016. The report shows results using 100,000 units or one full lot. My real position size that I trade largely varies based upon a percentage of the account balance. As I mentioned earlier, this strategy I developed on June the 17th, 2016. At the time, I was studying a lot of Andrea Ungar's work, including some of his paid courses, and I'm extremely grateful for everything I've learned from him. I regard Oanda as one of the biggest influences and teachers when it comes to developing algorithmic trading strategies, especially in those early years that I started. These days, I'm able to take my experience and knowledge from those early years and apply it to my own trading ideas to create successful trading strategies. So let's have a look at the first workspace where we'll look at the data right up until June 2016 when I was actually working on and developing the trading strategy. So here in this workspace we can see a lot of trades on the charts. Now if I just hover here we can see we've got data up until the 1st of June 2016. Now so this is the data set that I was using to develop the original idea, and we can see these trades and we can see that we're mostly in the market unless we get stopped out. You see here it's a stop loss, back in the market, with stop loss we're out. We're actually stopped out quite a bit in this time period. Let's just scroll back so we can see a little better. So if we look here we can see we've got a short trade here, out of the short trade into a long trade, we've got stopped out, into a new short trade, into a long trade, into a short trade, into a long trade, stopped out again. So we can see that we're largely in the market at all times, and we're taking these entries intraday because we're looking at a 15-minute chart of dollar-yen. So looking at the performance report, we can see we've got 417 trades we got an average trade value of 23,000 yen, so which is equivalent to 23 pips. The largest losing trade is 105,000. That's a 105 fixed pip stop loss. We look at the equity curve, and it's quite a nice, smooth-looking equity curve. This is exactly what I was looking at when I was developing the strategy. Now, what I don't have in this report is any trading costs. Now, we all have to pay trading costs. So in the next workspace, we're going to look at exactly the same strategy, same time period. I've just added 3,000 yen per trade in the trading costs. And if we look at the equity curve, and it's a similar equity curve, ever so slightly flatter, but it's a similar equity curve, because if we look at our total trade analysis, we've still got a large 19,800 yen average trade, and we can see that the trading costs have gone on to the largest losing trade as well. So for those of you who like to see reports with trading costs, there we go. In this next workspace, we're looking at data up until October 2019. Now, this is when I actually switched the strategy off. So if we look at the equity curve, we can see that from pretty much a high of around about February 2019, so the whole of 2019 was actually just going down all the way. Interestingly enough, I did have another couple of dollar-yen strategies that performed equally badly for that year for some reason. I don't know why, but it got to October, so this period down here, where I thought enough's enough. I think this strategy is broken and I'm going to switch it off. I was actually a little bit late to switch this strategy off, and I probably got a little bit attached to it. I mean, I've been trading this strategy and it had been performing, making money for a few years, and I thought that it was doing so well and I just didn't want to switch it off. I thought it was just a slight decline and things were going to turn around and it was going to carry on performing. But it got to this point, most of the year it had been underperforming or losing money, and enough was enough. It was time to switch it off. Knowing when to stop trading a strategy, knowing when to, or how to identify when a strategy is actually broken, is quite a difficult part of being an algorithmic trader. Now, I do have rules for this, and I was a little bit lax when it comes to this strategy. I admit I should have followed my rules better. A good way to identify when a trading strategy is underperforming or perhaps broken and is never going to work again is to apply a moving average onto your equity curve and only trade the strategy when the equity is above its moving average. I've actually done an old video about this, and I'll link that if you want to learn a little bit more about that. So take a look at that one if you're interested in that. So that was October 2019 when I stopped trading the strategy. Now in the next workspace, we've got data up until September 2020, so almost a year later. And this is about when I actually switched on the strategy. If you remember in the last workspace, it was about here on the chart, so we've had this big down period and the strategy did continue to underperform all the way to almost December 2019. But then things did start turning around and they started to move up again, and I decided to switch the strategy back on and start trading it in September 2020. Obviously I had missed some of these early gains, look, but in hindsight, probably should have never even turned it off at all, but I didn't know that it was going to turn around and recover and start making money again. In the next workspace, this is a chart showing trades right up until the end of April 2021, pretty much the present day. So let's have a look and see how it's performing. And we can see that the performance, even since I turned the strategy back on, it's continued to make money, which is really good. And we're pretty much now, you can see by the green dots, we're making brand new equity highs. And in the last workspace, we can see data from June 2016 through till May 2021. So remember, I developed this in June 2016. So everything you see here, all the trades you see here, are all from out of sample or completely new, unseen data. So I developed it on data prior to this date, and what you see here is how it's performed since the development. So it's a little snapshot of that upper part of the previous equity curve. You can see I started trading this strategy down here and saw some good gains. Remember, I got out of the strategy, stopped trading it around here, so I had seen some losses, and then restarted trading it around about here in September 2020, and it's done pretty well ever since. Hopefully it will continue to perform, but I don't know. I should just keep an eye on it, monitoring it, keeping a moving average on the equity curve so as to try and identify when it stops working again, or if it stops working again. Let's just quickly look at the total trade analysis, and we can see the average trade has dropped considerably. That's because we did go through those big losing periods, but still an average trade of 11,000 yen, and this is after trading costs, so that's pretty acceptable, and we can see we've made money using this strategy. With that big decline, or that underperforming period that we can see in the equity curve, you can see that the performance is not ideal. However, at the end of the day, even with that underperforming period, it has made me money, and I'm pretty happy with the results, considering it was pretty much the first algorithm that I'd actually developed from scratch myself, with very little or no experience of algorithms back then. Let me know if you find this sort of video useful. Please give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying it, and if you do find it useful, then perhaps I'll make some more videos like this, showcasing some of my live strategies, especially some of the ones that I've been trading for quite a few years and have continued to perform. Anyway, that's all for this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below, and I'll try my best to answer them. But until the next one, this is Jared Goodwin, and thank you.